This is an AB Helicopters training video covering the London helicopter routes. The video covers routes H9, 10, 4, and it starts at Denham Airfield, where it will then route to northward, end up at the Isle of Dogs and return back to Denham Airfield. The footage is shot in a Robinson 4-4 helicopter. This video has been designed as an aid to assist helicopter pilots navigate the busy and complicated airspace around London. In order to safely allow helicopters to transit across London, a set of helicopter routes have been established across the area. Given the proximity to London Stansted, Luton, London City, Battersea Heliport, Fair Oaks, Denham, White Waltham and Farnborough, successful transit through the London Control Zone, which is Class D airspace, requires high accuracy flying, including strict radio telephony, adherence to clearances, accurate navigation and avoidance of coordinate cutting. This guide does not substitute to actually flying the route with an instructor or an experienced pilot. The workload can be extremely high, and with the proximity to commercial aircraft, a mistake in the clearance limit or altitude can have severe safety implications. The benefit of using the helicopter lanes extends to not only the convenience of avoiding a course change to avoid the control zone if transiting through the region, but also allows the exclusive experience and thrill of seeing the City of London from up above, flying down the Thames with an unprecedented view. The helicopter routes in London have set joining positions located on the perimeter of the control zone, which H9 being the main north-south route crossing over Heathrow Airport, and H10 running east and west. Vertical limitations are provided by publishing the maximum permitted altitude among each segment of the route. When the routes intersect, a pilot can transfer from one to another, allowing for a network of routes throughout the city. Certain restrictions apply to specific routes, permitting flight only during the hours of daylight. Due to the complex airspace and the accuracy required, it is required that the route be flown with an instructor at least 3 times, or until you and the instructor are confident in your ability to fly the route alone. Along the sections of the route following the River Thames during high tide, there are very limited opportunities to perform an emergency landing to dry land. Thus, it is recommended to revise not only the ditching procedures of the aircraft to be flown, and to preferably use an aircraft with floats, but to obtain life jackets for the occupants should an alteration to the River Thames be required. This video covers the route H9, H10, H4 to the Isle of Dogs and then to turn around and route westbound. Other options include continuing north up the Lee Valley reservoirs over the site of the Olympic Park. It is possible to continue east past the Isle of Dogs along the river to the Thames estuary. The London airspace can provide a high workload for a single pilot, requiring the pilot to change frequencies 6 times in the space of 15 minutes if the routes are busy. Thus, prior preparation and study of the visual reporting points and the airspace is essential. At this point, the pilot is approaching northward, which is the northerly zone boundary. A call to Heathrow should be made at least 3 minutes before the zone boundary and should include your route, ETA to the zone boundary, point of departure and destination. Heathrow radar is on frequency 125-625. At this stage, the pilot is just entering the controlled airspace at northward, which is denoted by a set of power lines or the pylons cutting across a hedgerow. Do not enter controlled airspace without permission, and obtaining a squawk code alone does not mean you have clearance. At this point, the maximum altitude is 2,000 feet. The pilot is aiming for a white house which is passing down the right-hand side of the helicopter before turning towards Northolt Airfield, which is denoted by the VRP Gutteridge. Occasionally, pilots may be asked to hold to the north of the airfield, pending an arrival or departure of an aircraft into Northolt. The altitude restriction at Northolt, or Gutteridge, reduces to 1,200 feet when turning eastbound along H10. Gutterage is denoted by a small green blister hanger which the helicopter is passing over now before turning left onto the A40. The route now continues along the A40 towards Perivale. Note, between Perivale and Barnes Bridge, the specified altitudes are a requirement to fly at, not above or not below. This is 1200 feet. Perivale is distinguished as the old Hoover building on the left-hand side of the A40. It is to the north of the golf course, which is divided by the River Brent. It also can be identified where the railway line and the A40 road converge. The helicopter is now approaching the Hanger Lane railway station, which is identifiable as a circular tube station. The helicopter will now take a right turn to follow Hanger Lane to join the River Thames. The helicopter should start a descent after turning at Hanger Lane to arrive at Brentford, the north side of Gunnery Park, at 800 feet. At Kew Bridge, after passing the M40 motorway, it will be a left turn to pick up the River Thames. Do not turn right, as this goes towards Heathrow Airport. Note, the need to be at 800 feet at Brentford, which is just coming up underneath the helicopter, is due to the extended centreline of runway 27 right at Heathrow, as the aircraft on final approach will be passing low overhead. Over Kew Bridge, turn left and follow the course of the river through a series of meanders. Passing Barnes Bridge just underneath the helicopter now, the maximum altitude raises up to 1000 feet. Continue to follow the river around the northern meander to go past Chiswick. The reporting point of Barnes, Fulham Football Stadium, is now visible on the left-hand side of the helicopter. Expect a frequency change to Battersea Tower on 134.275 if there are inbound or outbound traffic to Battersea Heliport at this stage. Battersea Heliport is located on the south side of the River Thames, just passing underneath the helicopter now. Upon passing Battersea, the maximum altitude increases from 1000 feet to 1500. However, it is common for air traffic control to impose an altitude restriction on not above 1000 feet or 1300 feet if aircraft are landing at London City. The helicopter is now passing over Vauxhall Bridge, which is often used as a handover point between the radio controllers of Heathrow and London City Airport. Along this section of the river, there are some key landmarks. The Houses of Parliament on Whitehall and Horse Guards Parade are all passing on the left-hand side, with the London Eye passing on the right-hand side as we route towards Waterloo. Pilots may be asked to hold at London Bridge. Note, London Bridge is the bridge before Tower Bridge, i.e. it is to the west of HMS Belfast. This would be for any traffic landing at London City. Try and avoid noise disruption as much as possible by flying at the maximum permitted altitude, if possible, especially over sites such as the Shakespeare Globe Theatre, located west of the London Bridge VRP on the southern side of the river. Note, the Shard is located on the southern bank of the River Thames and it's set 1016 feet. Rule 5, 500 feet away from any object, still applies on the route. Upon approaching the southern tip of the Isle of Dogs, unless further onward clearance has been obtained, pilots should enter a hold and request to continue either back along the river or to leave the zone. southern tip of the Isle of Dogs is indicated as the VRP. It is adjacent to the Greenwich Park. Normally the hold should be conducted within the banks of the river. However, in this video the hold commences further to the south over the Greenwich Park due to horizontal traffic separation from another helicopter, a German Navy Lynx. Once westbound clearance has been attained on H4, the helicopter can turn and continue along the river. Pilots may elect to fly on the north or the south bank of the River Thames to separate themselves from opposite direction helicopter traffic. As with flying over all built-up areas, pilots should avoid unnecessary noise disturbance. And, weather and ATC clearances permitting, pilots should fly as high as possible and avoid blade slap. Note, a helicopter needs to be able to land clear in the event of emergency, and lengthy holds of 5 to 10 minutes may occur along the route for high priority HEMS, police traffic or any fixed-wing departures from Heathrow or London City Airport. So, plan fuel accordingly and notify air traffic control early if your fuel state could become an issue, so they can identify alternative options. In the event of a radio failure, if a VFR clearance has been received to transit across the entire control zone along the helicopter routes, then continue the flight in accordance with the clearance, i.e. exit the zone at the pre-arranged designated point. However, when an intermediate clearance has been granted, for example, cleared H9 to Gutteridge, proceed to that holding point, hold for 3 minutes, then proceed on the requested helicopter route at the maximum permitted altitude of each section of the route, and clear the controlled airspace. The helicopter is now routing towards northward to leave the controlled airspace, where it will then turn left towards Denham, and this video will conclude. Reviewing this video is not an actual substitute for flying the route with an instructor or an experienced pilot, and the guidance expressed in it are that of AB Helicopters. All information is provided of a general nature only, and it is not intended to supersede any regulatory provisions in the ANO. Thank you for watching.